Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Osborn. And on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned throughout the course of their business and share them with us so that we can all learn together. As always, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way that established businesses are creating a reliable acquisition of conversations with their ideal prospects based on relationship. We use this method to book 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, endless social media posting, or any of the old, ineffective traditional marketing methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. The link to that will be in the show notes below. But on today's show, I'm excited to have Scott Sickmiller. He's the owner of Midas Immersion Cooling, where they provide immersion cooling. So, Scott, thanks for being on the show today. And I want to start off by asking you a question that I always love to start off with. And that is this: if you were somehow able to go back in time to when you started your first business, but knowing what you know now, what would you do differently in the first 12 months?
Would definitely look at the capitalization a little bit different. Uh, always have been around disruptive technologies. So it's a swing big or go home type of industry and technology. So like most owners, we've always kind of underestimated just how much it takes and how long it takes to get good traction in a disruptive technology. A lot of founders are blinded by offering a better mousetrap. Still today, been doing this for quite a while, and the physics, the science, the money, it all leads to supporting the technology that we represent or developed. But it almost inevitably takes longer to find success than one would think.
Yeah, yeah. It reminds me of a phrase I once heard. It says, "We often overestimate what we can do in 1 year and underestimate what we can do in 10." And yeah, I
Absolutely.
think we all fall into that trap for sure. Well, for people that whether it's an emerging technology or just a non-emerging technology, what are some of the things that's helped you to be able to grow business when it feels like maybe it's taken longer than you would have liked for it to have done so?
Yeah, and this is the challenge that a lot of founders have, and then being able to scale. So it's a multi-pronged answer. Early days, you have to work hard, and that comes as like a no-brainer. But the early days are tough. If you look at almost every successful business, it's putting payroll on the credit card, working the 24-hour shifts to get things off. And then as traction starts going and you get more success, and this is where a lot of founders struggle, you have to learn to delegate and give up some. And it can be a struggle for a lot. That's why we see a lot of founders exit businesses when they're just ready to take that hockey approach, because you can't do it all when the growth comes. And that can be a challenging element to be able to do both.
Mm,
Own and have the passion early, but then being able to delegate and let go and let your team grow as the success comes. And that can be the difficult part.
yeah. As you've grown, are there some things that have allowed you to be able to delegate more? Because I know that can be a challenge for a lot of people. Is there things that you've implemented in maybe your own mind and psychology and way of approaching it? Like, how have you dealt with that?
So having rode a couple hockey sticks up over the years, uh, the biggest part is getting early believers and having that really core team early. Uh, and that's a benefit and a disadvantage because you're all like-minded. You've all got the
Mm,
rose-colored glasses and are drinking the Kool-Aid. But having that foundation of like-minded folks that are out there, blood, sweating, bleeding with you, uh, and that team, and trusting that team, and then letting that team grow as that hockey stick starts is really key. So early foundational players. Now, on the flip side of that, inevitably, as you start climbing up that hockey stick growth pattern, you're going to have to let some of them go because they're not able to delegate and they're not able
mm,
to see the vision and be able to grow with the organization. And that's the difficult part. You need those foundational players, but some players are just always foundational players. They're unable to grow with the organization. Uh, but I don't know any disruptive or any new business that has good growth potential not having that mix of dreamers as well as those that are able to grow with it. Because if you all have one or the other, you never get off the ground.
Yeah, yeah. It's really interesting you saying that. I was interviewing someone a couple months ago, and they said that they came to a realization that they needed to sell the business because they couldn't grow it anymore. They just didn't have the skills, they didn't have what it takes to do it. He grown to 100 million, and he said that was my limit. He sold it, and the guy who sold it to him took it to $1 billion business. And I think that's a really amazing thing for people to be able to understand where their limitations are. It doesn't mean that they can never grow. It doesn't mean he can't build a business to 200 million, but it's, I think, really important to be able to not let that ego stop us from, knowing when maybe to exit something, and when to delegate. And yeah, very, very interesting on how you communicate that. I think it's a really good way perspective on that. It's
Yeah,
really,
yeah, and I can definitely commiserate with the individual because, and money is relative to the time period. The 100 million today was $20 million business just 15 years ago, but you reach a business size where, whether we like it as founders or not, it just begins to grow. You have to have multiple HRs. You have to have more, and the head count grows, and it's no longer this very clean line from associate to revenue. Just the complexity of the organization grows. And speaking very personally, there when you get to a certain size, the joy of business changes. I'd mentioned I've wrote a couple hockey sticks up, and I can definitely relate with that individual because you reach a point where it's not what you started. It's you're not growing it, you're maintaining and servicing, and yeah, you can sit there and watch the growth and take enjoyment from that. But there are many of us in the entrepreneurial spirit that like that organic growth. So I probably fall in that. There'll become a size where I no longer want to be here and I want to exit because it loses some of the fun. So I can definitely relate with that individual.
yeah, yeah. That's really interesting. Talking about growth and everything in business, and you've been in multiple businesses and rode the hockey stick, like you said. What's one of the things I like to always ask is around challenges in businesses because we all have them, um, and it can be isolating, and sometimes we can feel like we're the only ones that ever dealt with certain problems, which obviously isn't true. So, having said that, what's one of the what's the number one biggest challenge that you faced in business? And it doesn't have to be with Midas Immersion, it could be with any of them. But what's the number one biggest challenge you faced in business? What's the lesson that you learned from it?
Yeah. It goes back to the exact topic we were just speaking about, and it's very general, but we'll say people. Uh, Great people make the job fun.
Mm,
Disruptive people take the joy from it,
mm,
and learning that not everybody has the same motivational factors was one of the key elements that kind of broadened that population of good people. I realized people were people. My perception of them is what needed to change. So
mm,
my number one challenge early was thinking everybody was motivated by the same metrics or the same endpoint. If we were moving towards the vision, that was good enough for me. But others needed more tangible or intangible motivations and support. So it's a term that's not used as often now. It was really big 10, 15 years ago, but emotional intelligence. Um, my understanding of people and what they needed, my elevation in emotional intelligence was really a breakthrough from an early challenge that prevented some growth personally in the early days, and it's definitely helped some of the later hockey stick growth, understanding people better and that motivation. So we're more people are pulling the rope than what we'd realize. We just may pull it a little bit different.
mm. Yeah, that's really interesting. Really interesting. Well, over the next, say, 2 to 3 years of where you guys are going right now, and with Midas, what are the goals? What would you like to achieve?
So we measure things in energy more than money because we in our world, energy goes into the IT and it generates heat. and that's what we dissipate. As the data center world grows tremendously, as water consumption and efficiency matters more to folks, our goal is to be able to deploy a gigawatt of heat rejection a year. Uh, and why does that matter? In the technology that we support, a gigawatt of deployed capacity would equal 1.3 to 1.4 gigawatts of capacity today. Uh, I wouldn't call myself an environmentalist, but I definitely believe we only have one Earth and one planet. The more the more efficient that we can operate with less, the better it is for all of us. And that's our goal. We want to have immersion come from being a niche play to being an accepted play. And we're seeing liquid cooling in the data center space make that large leap today with the densities. But we're still seeing very inefficient energy generation. We're seeing, as we talked before the call, data centers have a bad name, and it doesn't need to be that way. There could be some good circular economies, specifically going across the pond where you're at, Jason. When we consume the energy for compute that we all are using, we can utilize that heat for other elements, district heating, industrial heating. So we're able to use that energy more than once. And as we all know, in the old days it used to be recycle. Now it's repurpose and reuse. And if we can reuse something, there's nothing more green. So our passion in the next 3 to 4 years is to get this technology from the disruptive niche to the mainstream, and just it sounds cliche, but let's let the data centers use the energy more responsibly and give something back to the communities.
Mm, mm. And I love that. What's the challenge for people to take a hold of what you guys are doing? Is it just, it's been done that way before? Is it people are maybe is it the decision makers thinking, oh, if I make this and then it doesn't work out, then it reflects back on me and they're afraid of losing their job? Like what's the push?
So at the end of the day, it's just massively different than the traditional vertical rack. We call it a bath. In the UK we call it a bath. We put a tank with dielectric fluid and put the servers down in. It's completely different than the way that the data centers have been operating for 50 years. So one, in the physical form factor, it's different. Two, it disrupts the current computer ecosystems that are out there. You look at the Dells, the Supermicros, the HPEs, NVIDIAs, or Intels at the chipset side. We're taking control of a lot of that ecosystem that they have developed, and removing it. So that is massively disruptive. And at the end of the day, it's still relatively young, even though we've been doing this since 2011. There are regulations and controls and standards that need to be built around, uh, because it's getting popular enough today, Jason, that where everybody's coming out of the woodwork. In the early days, there was just a couple of us and then a couple more. And today there are quite a few immersion players. And some of the larger players, Vertiv, for example, have entered the stream. So what is holding it back? A very conservative market, and the fact that we're different. Nobody can argue about the value proposition that immersion brings, the ROI or total cost of ownership, OPEX, CAPEX elements of it. Um, it's just disruptive. If we think back, if would the iPhone have been able to sell in 1995? Maybe not, but 2007 it was ready.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, it's so interesting, man. Well, Scott, for people that are interested in learning more about what you're doing and how you can help them, and maybe they are want to be on that forefront and they want to be disruptive as well. What's the best way for them to get in contact with you and learn more about what you do?
So LinkedIn's always a great way to connect. Scott Sickmiller. We have, communicating or contacting us through our website, www.midasimmersion.com, works well. And reach out. And as I mentioned, again before the call, we have deployments everywhere. We have one at Durham University, not too far north of you all. Um, we'd love to have the conversation and talk about what immersion can do for folks.
Amazing. Well, I definitely recommend people that are in the industry that need Scott's help to definitely reach out and chat with him. Nothing wrong with just having a conversation. So, Scott, thank you so much for having or being on the podcast today and just sharing your wisdom and insight and experience in business. I really do appreciate that. So, thank you very, very much on that. And as a reminder for everyone listening, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way that established businesses are creating a reliable acquisition channel conversations with their ideal prospects that doesn't rely on any of the old, ineffective traditional marketing methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn. The link to that will be in the show notes below. And until next episode, stay inspired.